Women don't care what you know until they know how much you care. That is such a beautiful quote for how women will respond in a financial planning setting. Don't give them the jargon. Don't give them the speech about alpha, beta, whatever, Sharpe ratios. They don't care. Maybe they will care if they know that you care.
That's Cary Carbonaro, one of the most influential advisors in the world. She's seen how wealth management still talks at women and not to them. Now she's flipping the script. This is Advisor Unfiltered.
All right, let's jump right in. So I love the mantra, compel her, don't sell her. I know you wrote this amazing book called Women in Wealth. So tell us a little bit about it.
Well, Women in Wealth is about working and serving clients, females, and that the playbook that you used in the past for men is not going to work for women. And originally, my title was Compel Her, Don't Sell Her. And Wiley changed the title to Women in Wealth, a playbook to empower clients and unlock their fortune. But really, the message, the simple message of Compel Her, Don't Sell Her is give your female clients a reason to do what you're advising them to do because it's overwhelmingly in their best interest. So compelling is giving somebody unequivocal reasons to do what you are advising them to do because it is long-term success, setting them up for long-term success. So whether it's setting up 401ks, whether it's planning for your retirement, whether it's whatever in financial planning, you or even investing in the stock market, because sometimes women get nervous about that. But whatever you're trying to get them to do, the action that you want them to do, give her the reason that is so much in her best interest that she's going to do what you tell her to do. And that's not selling, it's compelling.
So for those advisors or advisory firm owners who are leading a team and want to really focus on compelling and not selling their client, what are a couple of best practices, whether it's two of them that you can share today?
I have 21 chapters and every chapter actually has, so I don't have two, but I can give you some. But what's interesting is each chapter also has questions to ask yourself and questions to ask your female clients. So this is not a simple, wave a magic wand and everything's changed. It's a little bit more complicated because women are more complicated than men. So this is actually a sea change. And the reason that this sea change is happening is because women are going to be the future of wealth management. So the industry was created by men for men. However, this is changing over the next 4 to 20 years, and women will control more than 2/3 of the nation's wealth by 2030. And the numbers just get bigger the more you go out. I just did a CFP board presentation yesterday about the $84 trillion opportunity, which is how much money women are going to control, which is absolutely incredible. So, women have not been the historical client of wealth management firms. They've been divorced and widowed, which is another whole story because that's the only thing that our industry looks at women in only those two categories, divorced or widowed. And I actually have a whole entire life cycle that women are so many more things than that. And so what's so interesting is, so back to what you can do. So many things. But one thing is, there's a quiz in my book, which is how female friendly is your practice? And it's a 20-question quiz, and it will uncover blind spots for you that you don't know what you don't know. And so take that quiz. Then there's another thing about implicit and unconscious bias, which is also you don't know what you don't know. Take that quiz. That's a Harvard Business Review quiz. Take that quiz. See where your blind spots are. Then there's, communication, marketing, client experience. There's a whole entire communications. Everything that you can do in your practice should be looked at and say, is this female friendly? When I walk in the door, does the client feel welcome? Am I addressing the client's needs, the female client? Am I ignoring the female client? Do I know the female client? What keeps the female client up at night? So there's so many different things. And then of course the stat that 70 to 90% of women leave their advisors when their spouse dies. That stat has not changed in decades. And what's interesting about that is if women are going to be getting all this wealth, you may be losing this different client base who has different needs. And, it's more of we're going from transactional to relational, and women want to be educated and empowered, and that's what you and you need to have empathy. So it's like those are my top 3 E's: education, empowerment, and empathy. And I actually have in the book how to do all of that.
So obviously there's two sides to money, whether it's logic and emotion, and I feel like it's definitely a tug of war that we have to go through on a daily basis on it. So with that being said, how can the advisor really focus on tapping into the emotional side of the money so that they can provide the best guidance for their female clients?
Money is very emotional for women, way more than it is for men. Women have more than 50% of women have the bag lady fear, which is that I'm going to be penniless, homeless, and on the streets. And for me, I've had it my whole life. So it's actually been a massive motivator for me to be successful, to not be that bag lady on the street. But the fact is, do you know if your clients have it? Have you spoken about it? Have you addressed it? What does that mean? And usually the clients who have the bag lady fear are great clients because they're saving and investing and planning because they don't want that to happen. So they're usually your best clients. But anyway, back to also left brain, right brain with women. So women also have verbal centers in their left brain and their right brain, and men only have it in one side. So, which means women like to talk more, which is kind of interesting, right? I mean, we kind of know that already, but it's because of the left brain, right brain. And so, let's talk about tapping into emotions because emotions are powerful. When you are compelling somebody, it's because there's emotion involved with that decision. So you are wrapping emotion into the decision making, and then therefore it's so powerful. If you think about that and how many times you make a decision around money that either is conscious or subconscious, emotions are involved even if you don't know it because you're thinking about things, your money stories or what you learned as a child. If you think about, like, why do you always buy the gas that you buy? Why do you buy the clothes that you buy? Why do you stay at the hotels that you stay in? Why do you live where you live? Why do you drive the car that you have? It's all related to emotional stories around money. So, we are there with our clients and we should be addressing all of these issues: spending, saving, overspending, underspending. Why? I always want to know I always want to know the root cause of the why. Why do you feel that way? What is driving you this? Like, we used to have it when I was at United Capital. We used to have this thing called findyourmoneymind.com. Doesn't exist anymore, but it was a nice 7-question quiz where you could find out your subconscious thoughts around money and why you do what you do. And it came into 3 different things. So you were either happiness, which means pretty much you're a spender, commitment or fear, which is pretty much you're a bag lady, and then the third one, which is commitment, meaning you're putting everybody else in front of yourself to the risk of your own potentially retirement or whatever, because everybody else comes before you. So kind of interesting to get to understand why you make the decisions around money.
So that's a perfect segue to empathy and trust. Empathy and trust are not just soft skills, they're really business drivers. And for those advisors that really want to focus on being empathetic and really translate that into a bigger business growth goal, how can they strategize and implement that?
So it's so interesting because if you think about empathy, empathy is feeling for another person or putting yourself in the other person's shoes. So if you think about, for example, um, Charlie Kirk was just killed, and it's a big divisive issue within our country right now. So when you first heard it, what was your first thought? Oh, that's terrible. I feel bad for his family. I feel bad for his kids. That's empathy. If you say, if you immediately say, I don't care, doesn't affect me. I don't like his political views. You already are like, empathy's not even in the equation because you're not putting yourself in that situation. So it's so interesting because I actually have a whole entire chapter on this in the book, and I talk about the people who don't have empathy, and there's actually some some people that don't have it or who can't have it, like narcissistic personality disorder and sociopaths. And there's actually parts of that people that have personality disorders that are just never going to have it. And guess what? I don't think you should be an advisor if you're in those situations, because you can't fake empathy. It's a real thing. People can feel it. They can see it. They can touch it. They can, I mean, even though you can't really touch it, but I mean, if you're touching somebody when they're crying, that's empathy. If you're feeling what they're feeling. So I happen to be an empath, which is even worse, because that means I feel what somebody else is feeling. So if somebody is crying in front of me, I literally my heart is pained and I'm hurting and I'm feeling what they're feeling because I'm transferring their energy. And it is what it is. I mean, it's positive and negative. Believe me, it's just how I was born. So I don't think you can, I think you're just born an empath, but it's more difficult that way because you feel things a little bit more. But anyway, empathy can be taught, and there's a lot of classes on how to do it, and putting yourself in the other person's shoes.
Storytelling has been such a game changer for our industry and all industries when it comes to service. And so, how could advisors be better storytellers so that they can build deeper relationships with their clients and prospective clients?
It's so interesting because I'm a storyteller. I just love stories. I love telling my client stories. I love talking about all stories that happen to me. I just love it because people love it so much. It's so relatable. And also people remember stories, and stories are how people take action because of stories. So if you are not storytelling in your sessions with your clients, they may not be getting it. They may not be on board. They may sort of be like half involved and, not tied to you for the rest of your life. But really stories can solidify your relationship, and it shows how much you care, and that the fact that you're sharing with them, it's a beautiful interaction of exchange. And it's so interesting because I also feel like stories are also empowering, because I'm telling what happened with other people, and they're like, oh, I see myself in that. I'm not alone. We're all collective. We're all together. We're all in this together. It's so beautiful to know that we all have the shared human experience. So if you haven't read my book, it is in chapter 1, and it is part of my story. And my sister begged me not to put it in the book, and I said, I am putting it in the book. People need to know. And it's interesting because I also wanted to tell it for a couple of reasons. First of all, I want to, like you said, make myself vulnerable and tell the whole story. Second of all, nobody wants to talk about this. It's like the elephant in the room when it comes to being afraid of this big organization, and everybody is afraid of this big organization, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. And then thirdly, as a woman in this industry, and as a woman talking about relating to women, you need to know what our struggles are. You need to know what we've gone through. And that's why I thought it was incredibly important to the story of the book. So I was at United Capital. I was the head of women's leadership, which I founded and got funded because of the Great Wealth Transfer. And I was doing amazing things. We were very female friendly at United Capital, and I had a diamond level practice. I had multiple roles. I was doing speaking and writing and all this amazing stuff. And I was also a coach, and I was doing a million things there, and it was fantastic. Um, that's when I actually was number 4 in the country on the Investopedia list. That year was 2019. And then, unfortunately, my company got sold to Goldman Sachs, which everybody knows is the 1,000-pound gorilla in the industry, except it was absolutely, completely different culture than United Capital, which was, entrepreneurial and out of the box, and really supported my vision of the future for women and wealth. And Goldman is literally the complete opposite. They are, this is the way it's done. This is the way it's always been done. We're 150 years old, run by men for men, and that's it. And I came in and I was like, what is going on here? And they told me when I won the award of the Investopedia, when I was number 4 on the list, that I could not tell anybody. I couldn't share it. I couldn't put it on social media. I couldn't send it to my clients. It was like, and that was one of a million stories, but that was like literally a knife in my heart. And I'm like, could you imagine like how much business I could have gotten from just sharing that information? I mean, people build businesses on that. And I could not even use it or tell anyone. So it was a very terrible experience for me. I mean, I almost gave up. I almost left the industry and retired early. Thank God I didn't, because I said if I did that, they would have won, and I didn't want to let them win, and I wanted to be here for the great wealth transfer. This is what I've been waiting for my whole life. This, it's what gets me out of bed in the morning, is helping women and changing this industry to make it female friendly, and having women have great experiences, and women have money and power, and all of this stuff that's going to happen over the next, I don't know, 5 to 20 years. It's happening. And so I said, there's no way I'm getting out of this industry. But I had to quit, run out my non-compete. I was not able to buy back my business. All the men were able to buy back their businesses. They said yes, and then they reneged on me. And I had to quit and run out my non-compete and start over. And then I wound up at the wrong firm on the other side because nobody wanted me. And then I had to search for another firm. So I had to move all of my clients 4 times in 5 years, which was, and I retained all of them. Yes. And the one thing I will say too, because we talked about this, I talked about this yesterday at the CFP board, connections conference. Women don't care what you know until they know how much you care. That is such a beautiful quote for how women will respond in a financial planning setting. So they really don't give them the jargon. Don't give them the speech about alpha, beta, whatever, Sharpe ratios. They don't care. And they do, maybe they will care if they know that you care.
Cary, thank you so much for your time and being a part of the Advisor Unfiltered journey. You've really shown us that the key to this all is to really focus on compelling. And if you're already selling your female client, you're probably behind. So the key is always to lead with empathy, trust, and try to build real connections. And those are really the chastities for growth and success when it comes to serving female clients and the next generation. So this is Advisor Unfiltered. And just remember, don't sell her, compel her.